Hello there, hello there. I am Dear Stalker Darling, and this is a study in stories, and today is a day I have been waiting for. If you saw last summer, I talked a lot about Greek mythology. I'm still about 3 years behind in the giant stack of Greek mythology retelling books that I own and haven't read. But I made a whole video last summer about why I don't like Christopher Nolan and his movies and how he's just given these huge budgets for mediocrity and blah blah blah, and everyone was like and this year everyone's talking about the Odyssey and it's awesome. I love hearing people talk about Greek mythology, and everyone's running out to buy their own copy of the Odyssey to read it, and most people are buying this one. This is Miss Emily Wilson, the translator, Emily Wilson. And Christopher Nolan has been screaming that this is the edition of the Odyssey that he was heavily inspired by and he used when making his film. Which, okay, full disclaimer, right off the bat, I have not seen the film. I do not have 3 hours of my life to spare, especially in a theater. When it comes on screen, maybe I will watch it. All of Christopher Nolan's other films, I need a fast forward button for. I did not need to see Kenneth Branagh just stand in a turtleneck for that long. But I also don't feel I need to see the film, especially because of what happened today. And what happened today was that, okay, everyone's been asking me, because I love Emily Wilson, I'm not quiet about it. They said, what does she think about the film? And I hadn't heard anything. So I thought, she's probably ambivalent because she's making money on it. Happened with another historian, Mr. Tom Holland. Tom Holland is a historian, just happens to share the name with Tom Holland, the actor. And so they paid Tom Holland, the historian, to do promotion with Tom Holland, the actor, to promote the Odyssey film. And first of all, I thought I would be the only person alive to struggle with the two of their worlds clashing together, because who else would be a fan of Spider-Man and the Odyssey at the same time? But Tom Holland was like, oh, I love this film, I love this film. Both the actor and the historian. But you know, he was paid to help promote the film. And also he's a mediocre white man. Anyway, so I hadn't heard anything from Emily. So I thought, she's making some good bucks from this film. Maybe she's just staying ambivalent because, you know, she's just, no. My girl, Emily Wilson, was saving her review, her very long, detailed, brilliant review. I haven't read it yet, full disclosure. And she posted it on the London Review of Books, which I think she's a regular writer on there. She crashed their website when she posted it yesterday. She crashed their website for a movie review about Greek mythology. Like, culture is awesome. The arts are awesome, you guys. And so I thought it might be fun to sit here and have my first virginal reading of her Emily Wilson's review of the Odyssey film, directed by Christopher Nolan. She titled it An Uncomplicated Man, because if you know, you know. One of the main descriptions of Odysseus in the Odyssey is that he is a intelligent, tricky crafter, but Emily chooses to use the word complex in her translation, and she emphasizes that a lot. She emphasizes, I mean, this whole first part of the book is just introduction and her translator notes. And that's the thing I respect most about Emily Wilson, is that she acknowledges that translators cannot be unbiased. She acknowledges her own perspectives are going to end up in the book, just with small word choices. But she also takes time to explain why she's making the word choice she is and how it differs from how people have traditionally translated the Odyssey in the past. One other quick example, not just the complex Odysseus, is with Penelope, his wife, the Queen of Ithaca, and there's all these suitors because they think Odysseus is dead. And she says, all right, I'll choose a new suitor after I finish my tapestry. But she weaves every day, and then at night, she unplucks what she did that day. And weaving, which I have tried, and it is way harder than it looks, you guys. Like once you get in the rhythm of, like, you know, just putting the up and down, like, that's fine. But, like, switching colors and, like, it's not easy. And it is really quite difficult on your fingers. And throughout history, a lot of translators have said Penelope has really long fingers or really fine fingers, very ladylike fingers. And Emily's like, no, that's not the word in ancient Greek that they're using. They're saying she has very muscular fingers. She's saying she got beefy hands. This is a woman who is just as brawny and muscular and crafty and brilliant as her husband. So I just appreciate her transparency more than anything else. But I do disagree with Emily on a few things. And I'm not going to address them right now because I saw what I wasn't like fully paying attention when I saw what I saw. Her saying something. And I know she's going to address it in full in a book she has coming out in September. So I'm waiting for that and hopefully we'll talk about it then. But for now, let's read her review. And because of copyright reasons and length, I'm not going to read the whole thing out loud, but I will just shout out my favorite parts. Let's go. Oh, right off the bat, she goes, "The Odyssey is a family-friendly audiovisual spectacle, like an elaborate 4th of July firework display. And with about the same level of narrative and emotional depth." You have to appreciate Emily Wilson's word choice when she writes, because she's a translator. She thinks about word choice really carefully. And in the second paragraph here, she compares the Odyssey to Nolan's other films. And she says, yet again, survival is portrayed. Yet again, there were long scenes. Yet again, like she is hammering home, like this is boring. Oh, no! Oh my gosh. She says, so Argos, Odysseus's dog, is one of the most heartbreaking characters to modern times. Nikita Gill has the most incredible poem. It's not even a full page long, and I cried for 3 hours after reading that poem. It is so magnificent. Highly recommend. That's in her book, Great Goddesses. But Emily Wilson here is saying Nolan like ramped up the, cute factor and the heart-wrenching factor for Argos the dog, because his story's so tragic here. And then she says, if only the human characters had been treated with such serious attention. Now we have some interesting historical fact. Okay, this is actually interesting. She brings up the thing I spoke about where I saw her speaking and I half heard it, and so I wasn't sure if I heard her right. But she's talking about adaptations. And she's talking about retellings as well. And she says, adaptations needn't and shouldn't follow the original with anything like the exactitude of a translation. Some of the best radically transform or resist the source material, providing what Harold Bloom, who I don't like, called strong misreadings of their ancestors. And so honestly here, I mean, it might come up again, but the thing was that I thought she was like emphasizing the strong misreading and she was condemning adaptations, but here she seems more ambivalent actually. So we'll see. She has a whole book coming out soon that's all about mythology and in our modern day and stuff. So more on that hopefully in September. Wow, this is interesting. She says in Nolan's film, nothing is ever at a human scale. Everything has to be, big and bold and explosive and all these things. And yet it's interesting that one of the main critiques of the film is that he barely includes any of the gods in his film, which is a choice. Nolan's spectacle threatens to drown out his story, just as the towering waves of the wine-dark sea threaten to overturn the hero's ship. Yeah. Woo! Okay, the one thing I gave Nolan for this film that I was impressed by was the race-neutral casting. So casting Lupita as Helen of Troy, because she is one of the most beautiful women on the planet right now, and oh my god. Wilson is saying that there's nothing progressive about these portrayals because they're all kind of just playing versions of the black best friend whose only role in the drama is to aid the white protagonist, which is like, again, I haven't seen the film, but I mean, that's Athena's whole thing, is to, you know, support Odysseus. And yeah, it's awesome to see Zendaya playing Athena. Us Percy Jackson fans wanted her to play Athena in the Percy Jackson show, but they say Lupita's part is hugely underwritten, given only a few minutes of screen time. Oh god. This makes me less likely to see the film. There are more female characters than in most of Nolan's movies, thanks to the source material. Ancient Greece is more feminist than you. That's a problem. This is just like Wilson's understanding of the source material of Homer. If Nolan respected her that much to be like, yeah, I used her thing, like, why didn't he like call her? I would have involved, like, if I was, he's so committed to like accuracy and like, you know, no CGI and all that. Like, I really feel like he could have given her a call at some point, sent her the script maybe. Ugh. Because it really would just take like one woman. That's the thing about Nolan's films, the ones that I've seen. I can't imagine there was one woman at the top at any part of the process, because one woman could acknowledge a lot of the problems. I appreciate her nod to Anne Hathaway's face is as expressive as ever, because there was that whole discussion about Anne Hathaway and other actresses not being as expressive because of Botox. Wilson is a girl's girl. That's what I'm getting. But the script gives her nothing to do except yearn for Matt Damon for reasons unknown. She gets it. I was humbled to learn that Nolan has read at least the first line of my translation. Okay, girl. But I would be ashamed to have written any part of this script. Oh, that's sad. Towards the end here, she is describing a lot of the kind of hypocrisy or double standards, or just like the lack of logic in Nolan's presentation, where like you can't say like this is bad and this is also bad, or this is good and this is bad. I don't know. The point is, this is confusing because as someone who hasn't seen the movie, I don't understand how you can present things that are essentially the same event as one good and one bad without absolutely being... For example, defying the gods is noble and brave when Odysseus blinds Polyphemus, son of Poseidon, the Cyclops, but it's stupid and greedy to defy the gods when the men eat the cattle of the sun, the sacred cattle of Apollo. And like, you're right, that's really... You can't have both, Nolan. Again, her word choice and metaphors. Any one of these moral contradictions could make for an interesting and generative theme in a movie, but Nolan lets the fragments of an incomplete set of big ideas spin around in the epic whirlpool with no plank of solid, specific human experience to which we might cling. Essentially, she's saying it's an absolute, like, moral and thematic mess. In a whirlpool, because he's trying to include everything, and so you've lost anything of substance. It's really quite funny. She has like a very clear bias for like loving Homer's Odyssey, and you want to be like, come on, girl, like, but also like, this doesn't survive several thousand years, 2,000 plus years? If it's not important, significant, impactful. So we'll let her have her bias. I appreciate her calling this out because she points this out in other translations. She says that the film's preferred term for slave is servant. They call the slaves servants, which is something she pointed out in other translations as well. Which there's a whole scene and a whole plot point eliminated, I heard, in the film, where all the slaves in Penelope's household are slaughtered by Tom Holland, the actor, his character, not the historian. And like, it's one thing to be like, oh, your servants betrayed you and this happened. And it's another thing to say, hi, these people are enslaved and they are being used and abused in all directions. And you're like, because you were used and abused, we're going to kill you. She throws in these little asides, like Agamemnon, I'm not even going to try. The one in the weird Darth Vader outfit. I also didn't see Oppenheimer, but I feel like this sentence could apply to that too. I did see Dunkirk, and I feel like this sentence could apply to that too. She says, "We are not shown that war or killing are bad, only that good men sometimes feel bad about it." Oh no. I caused mass destruction. Any serious depiction of violence, ancient or modern, must show the perspectives of the victims as well as the perpetrators, and the Homeric poems easily clear the bar, but Nolan doesn't. How are you worse at feminism than people from 2,000 years ago, Christopher Nolan? I haven't seen this film, but just from her review, I am beginning to understand why she accuses Nolan of only having read the first sentence of her book. One of the Oscars that will surely shower down on this movie like the golden rain of Zeus. The writing is abysmal, and all the food looks horrible. Tell us how you really feel, girl. I love it. Oh. And just when you think she couldn't, hit any harder, she concludes by pointing out the most troubling ethical problem with this film is that it was filmed in the Western Sahara, normalizing the ongoing violence against the indigenous the indigenous persons of the Western Sahara. And it is just that he used this lamb simply as a visually striking backdrop for a film that centers, aggrandizes, and redeems the hero of a territorial war on account of his belated and partial acknowledgement of his own guilt. So many academics, both ones that are like world famous like Emily and ones that you'll just meet at your local university, are so in a bubble that you try to point out she could have just addressed the poem versus the film for this entire thing. But Emily Wilson acknowledges real living people and the impact that all of these things are having on real living people and their lives. And that, I think, is one of the most important things in culture, in the world, in life, in being human. And it just gets so easily swept away and forgotten when you're just so in your little academic bubble. So I have the utmost respect for her, for just it's just one paragraph. And then she concludes with just the simple statement, "And I am grateful," because she's saying thanks to this film, the classics and literature are booming for the next 5 minutes. But you know what? If those 5 minutes produce even just 5 new scholars of Greek mythology, that's so worth it. That's so fantastic. Okay. My end conclusion is that what I thought from the start, Emily Wilson is a baddie and possibly one of the coolest and most intelligent people alive. I highly recommend reading her review of the Odyssey, whether you've seen the film or not, because her review is deeply entrenched in the history and mythology, and she's just so knowledgeable, and you are just going to learn something, anything, and that's more than you'll take away from the film, is what I'm getting. And again, I acknowledge I've not seen the film. I've heard it's some of Anne Hathaway's best acting work, so I very much would like to see those scenes at some point in the future, but I have so many other things to spend my time on. It's such a long investment to watch that film. I'm like emotionally weary, and I'm definitely going to have to fast forward through the dog scenes. But I would rather invest those 3 hours into reading the Odyssey and reading this translation, because no, I also have not. I've read part of it. I've read some of it. And with Christopher Nolan's film and all that, I'm not surprised in the slightest. And I can't even say I'm disappointed, because I had no expectations of it being good. But like Emily Wilson says in this review, and again, her review is brilliant. She's so good at her word choice, because you read this review and you're like, actually, she's saying the original source material is better than the film. I got to go find out for myself. And that's what she's making me. She leads you to think about all these deeper questions and deeper themes that Nolan doesn't quite grasp in his film. And these are all the deeper questions and themes that have made me want to read Greek mythology over the years and ancient texts. One of the things that I've been thinking a lot about for various reasons is, and oh my God, I don't speak Greek. I don't know how to pronounce this, but whatever. Agamemnon's, who I also can't say, his daughter, who he sacrifices to start the Trojan War, essentially. A lot of people don't know about this detail, but I knew about it, and then I was reading. What was I reading? Oh, I don't even remember now, but it was some original source material. It described her whole experience of being brought to this sacrificial altar in vivid, visceral detail. And from the dismissive way that you're like, okay, you killed your daughter to start a war, you'd think, like, the fact that they put that in their mythology and history, that clearly they don't value, they don't necessarily see this as bad as we would, but the way they described it in this thing, I wish I could remember what it was, but the way they described it, you were like, oh no, they knew that was awful. They knew that was very, very bad. So yeah, I'm usually one to encourage everyone to go and consume media for themselves before forming an opinion of it. I try very hard to do that myself, but I'm trusting my girl Emily on this one, you guys. If a smart, brilliant woman is recognizing a lot of the same weaknesses as Christopher Nolan as I have, and she's also saying that the source material is better, so just go read that instead, I think that's where I'm gonna be spending my time. And until next time, hopefully we'll talk about Sherlock. I mean, not hopefully, but I decide. I will say it is incredibly likely next time we will be talking Sherlock Holmes again. Thanks for watching. I hope this was more enjoyable than the Odyssey. The film, not the book.